Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for all the technicians over here in the room that actually made it work. But now it's figured out, right?
Yes.
Great. So where are we up to in the Maimer? We're up to in the Maimer. We started saying, how do we deal with the great waters? How do we deal with things that are coming to flood us? And we defined the definition of things that are coming to flood us are the things that don't let us be our true selves. We're going to see later in the Maimer that the expression for that is mainly in davening. Davening is, for a lot of people, it's the hardest thing, because for that you have to be very, very present, like in every relationship. You have to be present in order to be in the relationship. So we said that this is a three-step program. The first step is, what do you say? What was the first step?
The connection.
Knowing, or better, connecting to the part in us that is not flooded. The first step in getting out of the flood is by knowing that what?
Your essence is still there.
That my essence is not flooded, my essence is invincible. Yeah, the same is also in any trauma or anything that is coming to flood us, anything that is coming to take us over. We have to know that where it's distracting us is only in our external self, but our essential self is completely beyond. That's the first step. The second step is to use the water in order to grow from it. To use the great waters in order to, not only it shouldn't flood us, we could actually use it in order to grow from it. How do we do that? So first, the Alter Rebbe gives away almost like a quarter of a page to bring proofs to this wild idea. Chassidus comes and says that this terrible flood that everybody's talking about, that flood it's like the worst thing. Yeah? Even last week, these evil, cruel Nazis, the Hamas, they called it the flood. Their terrible success in slaughtering us was they called it the flood. Suddenly Chassidus comes and says, no, the flood is called in Isaiah 54. How's it called? We're just making a short recap. Just want to check everyone's memory.
Purified.
It's called Mayanot, the comforting waters. The comforting waters. And then that's one proof. And another proof, what is the other proof that Alter Rebbe brings? That if God just wanted to get rid of all the people, what would God do? Just wipe them away, kill them all. Instead of that, what did God do? He took the world to the mikveh. Water is a purification. 40 days corresponds to the 40 saw. The idea of the mikveh. So that's the first part of what Alter Rebbe is trying to prove. That the Mabul isn't only over here in order to flood us, but rather, if you know how to deal with the Mabul, if you know how to deal with your issues, if you know how to deal with your trauma, it's not over here in order to flood you, but rather it's in order to comfort you, in order to help you be yourself. The second part of what the proof that Alter Rebbe is going to try to bring is the idea that Shibud Parnasa, the worries of Parnasa, are similar to the idea of Mayanot. In other words, in the first part, we said great waters cannot extinguish. What is that in our personal lives? The worries of Parnasa. But over here now, we're going deeper and we're trying to say that it also has the positive side. So the Alter Rebbe is going to give away some time to prove to us that also Shibud Parnasa, Shibud means the subjugation, the worries of Parnasa, they are also called Mayanot, they're also called comforting waters. How are we going to see it? Let's see. Just want to point out what the Alter Rebbe is going to say now, that in Chassidus, since Chassidus is all about the positive, there's no real negativity in Chassidus. By the way, maybe we should step back one step behind. Let's step back one step. Why is everything so positive in Chassidus? Anyone? Yeah. What is the conception of Chassidus that causes that everything should be positive?
I guess the whole idea of being a chassid being simcha.
Oh, that's also an outcome. But where is it? Which philosophical concept is it based on? Obviously. But which idea in the Tanya? This is the same author like the Tanya said these things.
Like the wrestlers talk about.
Okay, that's why you have to be besimcha. But why is everything positive? Because it's all based on the idea of the Baal Shem Tov that there's nothing but God.
Yeah.
And if God is the ultimate goodness and kindness, everything has to be good. So if you're influenced by other cultures or other beliefs, Satan is a whole knacker. Satan is someone that has a whole kingdom and he has powers. But Judaism teaches us, Gam ki elich begeitz al moves, even if I'll go in the valley of death, lo ira ra, I won't fear evil, ki ata imadi, because you're with me. So there's really nothing that could, so to say, be outside of God. So ultimately, everything has to be good. How does evil come into being? How do prohibitions come into being? That's a whole other topic that Chassidus discusses. But in general, it has to be positive. Ki mimcha hakoil. Chassidus always quotes this verse. Ki mimcha hakoil. Everything is from you. So now the Alter Rebbe comes in. Oh, I'm sorry. So what did I want to say? That even purgatory, how do you say purgatory or purgatory? Even purgatory, from a Chassidic perspective, it's not really in order to kill you. It's to purify you. Why does it have to be so painful? Over here comes a very essential understanding of how therapy works. It's not in order, the therapist doesn't talk about your terrible trauma in order to hurt you.
It's not like a burning pain.
Yeah, he's not
intellectual pain, emotional pain.
Exactly. But why does the therapist have to do? A person comes and says, "I went through these terrible traumas." Says, "Okay, let's talk about it." I don't want to talk about it. You're making me feel even worse. But why is that necessary? Because that's the idea of cleansing. Cleansing means you have to go back and you have to deal with it. In life, it's very similar. There's no real growth.
That's why I say always talk it out.
Right, but not only, yeah, but that's true. Talk it out, deal with it, because every stumbling block could also be another step of growth. Why are you stumbling? From a Hasidic perspective, why are you stumbling? Why is it? The Gemara says, "Komas cholos koshers." All the beginnings are hard. Every new project is hard. We're trying to go live on YouTube, and it took us like 25 minutes today. Oh, exactly. For those that want to sleep in a bit. True. But what's the reason? The reason is because every beginning you're conquering a new space. Another challenge, or let's say a couple is arguing. Why are they arguing? Because they really want to be one. They want to connect. And now their connection is going to permeate another aspect of their psyche.
It's like if they're fighting, they want to be one, but if they don't want to be together, they wouldn't be fighting how they shouldn't talk to each other.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Ignoring the opposite of hate, the opposite of love is not hate. Hate is also a type of connection.
Like the sheer factor.
Indifference.
Even though it's like, even if it was a fight, it's high tension, sheer fact they're communicating with each other that shows that they want to be one.
There's a certain connection, and sometimes even if they don't end up connecting to each other, a person that really grows from things, he gets to know another part of his psyche.
Different journey, different space.
So that's always the idea of purgatory, of pain, of suffering. Again, no one should ever suffer. Everything should go smooth and easy. We should never have to go through these things. But if we do, always make sure that everything that you go through should be a lesson, something you could learn, something new about life, about yourself. That's really the whole idea that he's trying to say over here. But let's see. The Alter Rebbe wants to prove that the worries of Parnasa is similar to the idea of Gehenna, which Gehenna, everybody knows what it is. Gehenna is purgatory. And even in Gehenna, the Alter Rebbe wants to prove, again, the Alter Rebbe is the first generation of Chassidus, and therefore, the Alter Rebbe, all these ideas are, so to say, new ideas. So, he wants to prove that the worries of Parnasa are like Gehenna, and we also want to prove that Gehenna is not in order to kill you. Gehenna is in order to cleanse you. Why is it painful? Because you're stuck.
What's the difference between Gehenna and Sheol?
And
Sheol.
so different levels of Gehenna.
Okay.
Gehenna is a very wide range.
Sheol is just the grave.
No, it's something else.
Sheol is just the grave.
Sheol is also a level on Gehenna.
Oh,
Sheol
really?
is, yeah. Yeah. But
You got the song.
let's see inside. Hine Shivuda Parnasa. By the way, this is such an important point. It's something. I feel bad saying it, but let's just turn this on. I'll just have a tiny bit of air.
On the fan.
Yeah.
What level?
Thank you very much.
Which
Please.
level?
One. Just need some air. I would have opened the window, but the cook over there is cooking up a storm. Great. A fascinating thing, if you understand life like this, you understand that the less stuck you are, the less pain you'll go through. It works on a lot of different levels. But I want to quote a mimer of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe talks about the idea. The Gemara says, Eretz Yisrael niknes b'yisurim. Eretz Yisrael is conquered with pain. So the Alter Rebbe asks, why? Why does that have to be that way? So the Alter Rebbe says that because the level in Eretz Yisrael is such a high level, and he says the level in Eretz Yisrael is the level of Hishtavus. Hishtavus is a Baal Shem Tov idea. The Holy Baal Shem Tov says that a person has to try to live in a level where yes and no are equal. How would we say in simple English nowadays, yes and no are equal?
Are equal?
Are equal.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Equal.
Yeah.
Perspectives, subjectives, and
Yeah. If I need a coffee, I want a coffee. If I have it, it's okay. If I don't have it, it's also okay.
You're indifferent.
Exactly. In a certain level of indifference. But usually indifference is used in a negative context. I don't care. Over here, we're talking about I don't get affected. I'm not hung. I'm not hung up. I'm not stuck. So the Baal Shem Tov says that the light in Israel, the light in the land of Israel, the land in Eretz Yisrael, is the level of Ishtavos, where yes and no are equal. Am I pronouncing it right? Equal? How do you say it? Equal. Yeah. So he says that that's the reason why you have to go through pain. Why do you have to go through pain? Because that's what usually happens to a person when they go through pain. If they're not very, very stubborn, what happens? After a while, they give up. Okay. Whatever is. That's what the Alter Rebbe says. But now let's try to take it to the next level and understand. If that's the idea, how long do you think that person gets pain? Based on the idea of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe explains why is Eretz Yisrael acquired with pain, is because there's a certain level of spirituality that's the level of Eretz Yisrael. And in order for a person to acquire that, they have to go through the pain.
So when you
So how long does a person go through that pain?
until you maintain.
Exactly, until you learn the lesson.
Yeah.
So if you're smart and you learn the lesson quickly,
You go fast.
it goes fast. If you already have that level, you don't have to have the pain at all. So what is pain? Pain is not in order to kill you. When you go to the gym and you pick up a lift and it's not painful, that means that you acquired that level. If it's still painful, if you still pick up that weight and it's painful, what does that mean? That you didn't acquire that level yet. And really, I know this is a bit of a complicated, it's not complicated, it's a very painful thing to talk about because we don't believe in pain and we don't want pain. And unfortunately, we already all had enough pain. If not individually, collectively, the Jewish people already went through so much pain. But all this is in order to get us somewhere. And the quicker you learn the lesson, you don't need to have the gym instructor on top of you if you already got the lesson. Make sense what I'm saying?
Eventually, we'll get to the place we want to go to.
Exactly. But to go there in a spiritual sense.
Exactly.
And this is exactly what our Maimer is trying to discuss. How do we take all these things that we're struggling with? How do we take all the things that we're dealing with and make that into a catalyst of growth? And by the way, that's the same idea like Gehenna. That's what Alter Rebbe is trying to say. Gehenna is also not there in order to beat you up. It's not some type of revenge or vengeance. The idea of Gehenna is also a way to find you to help you find your essence. I once thought it might be a childish example. So if you don't like the example, you want to argue, I'll be happy to hear a deeper perspective. I sometimes think about life like a person hanging from a rope.
Hanging or
Hanging.
hanging on the
Or
rope.
like
Not hanging.
You said like everything from like a swing set or a monkey
Like a
bars.
swing set,
Monkey
like
bars,
an acrobat.
And you're very afraid that you're going to fall. And then suddenly someone starts hitting your hands. Let go. And finally, when you give up, you let go, like you realize that 1 centimeter, a half a centimeter under you, there's a ground, or better even, Hashem is over there in order to catch you. So we're holding on. But really, what does pain do? Pain causes us to say, no, you're not in control. Not in control. But once you understand you're not in control, you start living a much easier life. You're not stuck.
The point of submission, being accept.
No, in this
You're not in
case,
control.
Submission, acceptance, exactly.
in this case, it's overthinking. If you had through bitachon and understand that there's only 1 centimeter under him, he would let go because he true trust.
Okay, but that's natural. It's natural that we don't want to let go. It's just like we can't open our eyes in the shower, even though that we have soap in our eyes. It's very hard to open our eyes because like naturally we can't let go.
Right, so it's like the rope and then the person trying to break your hands off the rope is like the real world experience that cloud us from our Muna and our Bitachon and Hashem, and then
Exactly.
the platform you land on is the reality that Hashem's there to catch you, and you only realize that once you fall. If you ever fall, you're never gonna find out you're not gonna see the platform.
Exactly.
And you notice whenever you're falling, you're not looking down, or you are looking down, but like you're looking up, like to check your grip, right?
So struggling again, the Alter Rebbe has a language. The Alter Rebbe has an expression in other place in Torah that where he says that nowadays parnasa is very, very hard. Yeah, you can imagine Jews in Russia that weren't allowed to have at that time. Almost no one had land, and the only way to make money was business, and business wasn't so developed. So most people lived in terrible poverty. And over here comes Chassidus, a spiritual movement trying to get people into davening. And people come to the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe say, they come to the Alter Rebbe, how could we even daven? How could we even be ourselves? We're so swamped with so much worries. Comes the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe compares the idea of worries of Parnasa with Gehenna. Let's see inside. Hine, Shibuda Parnasa, we are on the second column. We're on Torah or page 16, Parshat Noach, the weekly Parsha. Yeah, you realized yesterday it was Nayoim Yoim, that the Alter Rebbe said that a person has to live with the times. What does it mean to live with the times? To live with the Parsha of the week. And then Chassidim, this is not in Hayoim Yoim, Chassidim used to say that there's to live with a Chassidic Parsha. Chassidic Parsha are the messages of Chassidus in the weekly Parsha. So this weekly Parsha is all about the flood. And actually you could see, if you learned the Chitas yesterday, it was pretty apparent that the Torah talks a lot about the idea that the water lifted the ark. Why do we need to talk about that? The ark was lifted. But according to this mimer, it makes a lot of sense. Because the water is not over here in order to flood it. So if you're not in the ark, you get flooded. But if you get into the ark, we're going to see the words of the Holy Baal Shem Tov. What is the ark? How do you say ark in Hebrew? Teva. And the word teva in Hebrew also has another meaning. What is the word? What is the meaning of the word teva? The words of davening. Get into the teva. Teva means a word. It means the ark and a word. So what does it mean? Vatarema teva. We're going to see later in the mimer that the idea is, if you know how to position yourself, pain and suffering is not going to drown you. You're only going to feel that it's over here in order to get you to learn something, to understand something. And the quicker you understand, the issues will go away. And usually, if you really want to learn quickly, do the things that are the hardest for you, because that's where your healing is. Let's see inside. Hine, Shibuda Parnasa, the worries of Parnasa, the subjugation of Parnasa, it's more than worries. Yeah, a person is subjugated. Yeah, you have to put bread and butter on the table. You have a wife, you have kids. You have to you have to provide. So that's a real subjugation. The subjugation of Parnasa is also called waters of comfort. There's a very interesting chazal that says that Hashem told Abraham, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Gehenna for your kids, or you prefer subjugation? And Avraham Avinu said, no, I prefer subjugation, not Gehenna. Says the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe is going to explain it in a second. That subjugation, what is subjugation? Subjugation means that you pay taxes. We're going to see. But first, he wants to explain, what does Gehenna mean? What does purgatory mean? Just like a neshama cannot reach Gan Eden, to rejoice or benefit from the glimmer of the Shechina, from the glory of the Shechina, before it comes down to Gehenna. Let me explain. There's a few concepts over here. Let me elaborate a tiny bit. There's two things that he says over here. First of all, he says that a person cannot reach Gan Eden before going through Gehenna. That's the reason why, God forbid, no one should ever experience that. But if one of our parents pass away, we say Kaddish for them. Why? Because Gehenna is 12 months. Gehenna is maximum a year. This is also the idea. What is a year? What does a year mean? A year means a cycle of going through all different types of seasons. Which again, if you're smart enough, you could go through these seasons within yourself, within your psyche. You don't need that seasons. Are you comfortable? If you want, we could turn the screen. You should be able to use the table.
Oh no, I'm fine.
You're fine. Great.
Yeah.
So Gehenim is for 12 months. So our custom is to do 11 months because we sort of say want to respect our parents, say that we don't think that they need a whole year. So do 11 months. Again, no one should ever have to experience this, and we don't even like to talk about the laws of mourning. But this is an important thing. For 11 months, people that mourn go to shul every day to say Kaddish. People that know how to daven before the ark, before the pulpit, try to do that too. But that's the idea. But it says that everybody has to go through Gehenna. Everybody has to go through the Gehenna. Not only everybody has to go through Gehenna, even angels, when they go from one level to another level, they have to dunk in Nahar Dinor. Dinor it's a pasuk. It's a pasuk in Daniel. What does Dinor mean? Nur, from fire, right? Nur, you know the name Nur? Yeah, Daniel, the book of Daniel is written in Aramaic. Yeah, actually in Arabic too. How do you say fire? Nur. Nur.
That's a name also.
Yeah, it's the name is either fire or light. I used to be mashgiach in a kitchen on Shabbos. So the Arabs over there, they weren't allowed to cook on Shabbos. So when I arrived, I don't know if they were making fun of me or they were serious. They used to tell each other, "Chabi nur, turn off the fire. You shouldn't see that we cook." Yeah, that's how. Chabi nur. So what does it mean? What does it mean? A river, dinur? It's a river of fire. So it says that the neshamas, before going from one level to another level, they have to dunk in a mikveh. The mikveh is made out of fire. What does that mean? We're talking, it's all metaphoric and spiritual. When you go from one level to another level, you have to delete your old perspectives, and you have to go into a whole new, you have to open up your mind for a whole new level. So the same idea is also Gehenna. Gehenna is a way to cleanse us. Yeah, we're coming from this world and we're going to a spiritual world. So the Gehenna, basically in modern English, we would call it getting rid of all of our attachments, all of our obsessions, all of our fears. All these things drag us down. Do you ever think about it? Why is it that the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we talk a lot about vows? Erev Rosh Hashanah, what do we do Erev Rosh Hashanah? The annulment of vows. What do we do the first prayer in Yom Kippur? Kol Nidre, again, annulment of vows. Why, what does that signify? Why do we can't say? To take away all those things that bog us down. In spirituality, the most important thing is to be free, open, not stuck. If you're stuck, either with grudges, obsessions, addictions, attachments, all those things bog us down. So that's the idea of Gehenna. But over here, the Alter Rebbe quotes another very interesting piece of Talmud from the Gemara Chagiga. What does the Gemara say? Just like they said by Acher. Acher, who knows who's Acher? The Rebbe of Reb Meir. He left the fold. Anyone remembers that story? Acher was the teacher of Rabbi Meir. He left the fold. He fried out. But Reb Meir continued learning from him. So he would be riding a horse, and Reb Meir would walk on Shabbos, which is prohibited, and Reb Meir would walk together with him, and walk all the way to the Tchum Shabbos. After Tchum Shabbos, you're not allowed to walk, but he continued learning from him. But then there's a whole story in the Talmud that Acher heard Reb Meir told him, "Why don't you do tshuva?" Which this by itself is a whole fascinating topic that I don't want to go into, which basically shows that back in the day, people understood when they went off They understood they're getting lost. In other words, it's not like nowadays people that go off leave the fold. They try. The truth is nowadays is also changing already. It's changing back. But the last generation, before now, people like made a whole ideology about being secular. But in the Talmud, it from all the stories in the Talmud, it looks like they knew when they became heretics, yeah, or what they call apikoros, yeah, apikoros, which apikoros is based on the Greek philosopher Epicurean, yeah, the idea of living a life only about instant gratification. It wasn't exactly about instant gratification, but again, I'm translating it into 2023. So people were aware of it. Say, okay, enough is enough. I'm not interested in working hard. I'm not interested in thinking about my spirituality. I'm just going to live a life of indulgence. So Reb Meir once turns to his Rebbe Acher and he says, Acher, why don't you do tshuva? So he said, I heard a baskol. I heard a heavenly voice that said everybody could do tshuva besides Acher, which by itself is a whole other topic to discuss. I don't want. There's so many things I want to stick. I want to stick to the mimer, but the idea is that the Gemara says by Acher mutav delidaine v'leisa la'alma da'asa. Acher was so freaked out about the fact that he'd have to pay for all of the sins, so to say, so he just gave up. But the Gemara says that Acher, it would have been worth for Acher delidaine. Dilidaini means to be judged. V'leisa la'alma da'asa, and reach. Alma da'asa means the world to come. And over here comes a very, very deep concept that Chassidus is trying to inculcate in our brains. And I'll present it in a question. What would you say? Is it worth for a person to be born, do every sin in the book every day of his life for 80 years, and once throughout the 80 years to put on tefillin? Is it worth or not? Why? What? Still did a mitzvah. But the guy did so many sins. For 80 years, every day, he did every sin. Okay, but you tell me, 80 years doing all the sins in the world, one day putting on tefillin, does that make sense to you? Why do you say that? Why do you say that it's worth it?
There's still some part of his essence trying to come out.
Exactly. That's the key word. The key word is like this. Evil, bad, again, this all goes back to the understanding of the Holy Baal Shem Tov. What is the only thing that is really essential? What is the only thing in the world that is really true? God. And our soul is connected to God. Now, all the sins in the world that you'll do, all the mess-ups, all the Gehenna, all the pain and suffering, all these things happen to you. Putting on tefillin is the real you. Once you understand that good is essential, evil is only a misconstrued mess up, so you understand that it's worth to go through all the evil in the world in order to get to your essence. And really, this is what the Smimer is trying to inculcate into our brains. All the pain and suffering that we go through, all the trials and tribulations, they happen to you. They're trying to flood you. Who's the you? And that's why we dunk in our souls have to dunk in this river of fire in order to get to the next level. A person has to go through Gehenna in order to get to Gan Eden. What's the idea? Gehenna, Nahar Dinar, trials and tribulations, subjugation to the worries of Parnasa. All these things are not you, are things in order to cleanse you. Mutav de lidaina, let's see the words in Hebrew. Mutav, it's worth lidaina to go through the judgment. V'leisa la'alma da'asa, in order to come to the future world, which the future world by definition means the essential world, who you really are. So let's see inside. Kemoikein, the same thing. Alidei shibud. Kemoikein is an acronym in the beginning of the line. Alidei shibud, through subjugation, so too, just like you understand about Gehenna, and just like you understand like Nahar Dinor, the fire, the river of fire, the same is also through subjugation. A person could go to a higher level. How do we know this? Because we see that Avram Avinu chose subjugation over Gehenna. Now the Alter Rebbe says, let's think, what is subjugation all about? What does subjugation mean? Not the fact that we have a king and that taxes us. Also in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, we had a Jewish king, and the taxes were very high. As it's known, everybody had to give 10%. In the times of the Alter Rebbe, 10% was considered high taxes. We should send an email to the Alter Rebbe that nowadays the first tax bracket starts as 25%.
In my country, it's
33. Yep. Elo hakavona shebizman beis hamikdash hayakayim nimshach bracha v'hashpa'ah atzuma. The answer is, what is the problem of subjugation? Not the taxes. Subjugation means that in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, there was an unbelievable blessing and unbelievable abundance. Israel was the land of flowing milk and honey. Completely not natural. Like it says in the end of the Gemara, the end of Masechtas Ksubas, and people didn't have to worry about sustenance. But now, now everybody has a lot of toiling and worries of panasa, to be involved in this physical world. Now, and this is the great waters that we mentioned before. That the great waters are called in Isaiah 54. They're called the waters of comfort. That's the idea of the comfort of the spirit. Because through the idea of the great waters, a person not only doesn't drown you, which that was the first level in the Maimer, the second level in the Maimer is that through the level of Mayim Rabim, the neshama could get elevated even higher than when it was before it was enclosed in the physical body. That then, before it was enclosed in the physical body, that it was only benefiting from the glory of the Shechina. Like our masters of our rabbis of blessed memory, over here, I'm sorry, it doesn't say the word yoser, that 1 hour of tshuva masim tovim in this physical world is better from the whole world to come. Because that's the advantage of light that comes after darkness. We're going to discuss how to do it, but first, the Alter Rebbe set the premise that the idea of Mayim Rabim is not in order to drown you, but rather to take you to a higher level. And together with that, we explained the idea of subjugation, the idea of worries of Parnasa, the idea of Gehenna, the idea of Nahar Dinor, that all of these things are not in order to kill you, they're in order to make you stronger and more connected. And that's why it's worth for the neshama to come down into this world, because through coming down to this world, he reaches even a higher level than where he was before he came down into this physical world. Have a beautiful, beautiful day and a very meaningful davening. See you tomorrow now that we have it all figured out. Thank you very, very much. Who was the second one over there? Who said fire?